I was just came to thought just now, as you know, I said Mordechai's on the Zoom. I says Tzapra Tava. We say good morning in the morning. What is a good morning? So, and it's always the beginning of the day. You see somebody in the middle of the afternoon, you say good day. Usually the custom say good morning, you say. So I'm mentioning that after Birchas Kohanim, when the Kohen comes down, we say Yashikov to the Kohen. We thank him for giving us the bracha. And what does he respond? He responds, Baruch Tia. You should be blessed. That's the way, that's what he's supposed to respond. But why, regarding Birchas Kohanim, do we say Yashikoach? So it's cited because the Kohen has just given us three brachas, and the Kohen was designated to be the one, to be the conduit for Hashem to bless Klal Yisrael. As a result of that, when we say Yashikoach, he says Baruch Tia, he's giving us another bracha. So therefore, it's an opportunity to receive another bracha from the Kohen. That's what we say Yashikoach. And he mentioned, therefore, the Mishmur says that the Kohanim, when they come down, it's right after Birchas Kohanim, and usually the Shlich Tzibur says Kaddish, is the middle of Kaddish. So they come down and say Yashikoach to the Kohen, and he responds, it's a hefsek, you're interrupting the Kaddish, therefore you should wait till after the Kaddish, and then the Kohen comes down, and you say Yashikoach, and he says Baruch Tia. So Nod Yehuda asks a question. Nod Yehuda was the chief rabbi of Prague in the late 1700s, latter part of the 1700s. He asks, seemingly it's Baltosif. The Gemara says in Rosh Hashanah that if a Kohen adds to the Birchas Kohanim, the three adds a fourth bracha, he's in violation of adding to the Torah, the mitzvah's three brachas, not four brachas. So the question is, when he comes down and we're saying Yashkoch to get the fourth bracha, he's adding to the Birchas Kohanim. That's the question the Nod Yehuda addresses. So he answers that Baltosif is only if it's within the context of Birchas Kohanim. What happens to halacha is, the Kohen, when he gives the bracha, he does not raise his hands. His hands are not extended horizontally. And he says the bracha, it's not Birchas Kohanim, has no value. It has to be with that posture that the Kohen gives the bracha, which is where his hands are extended. And since when he's coming down, his hands are lowered, they're not extended, therefore, it doesn't have the profile of Birchas Kohanim, therefore, it's not a question of Baltosif, you're adding to the mitzvah. The Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, what says the Kohen adds to the mitzvah of Birchas Kohanim, as he stands up there, his hands are extended, he adds a fourth bracha. But if his hands are down, are lowered, it's not a question. So I was thinking, when we say good morning, the Gemara tells us in brachos, that even when an ordinary person gives you a bracha, don't minimize the bracha. It has value. Altia birchas hedyot is an ordinary person. Don't take it lightly. It has value. So at the beginning of the day, we meet a person. He says, "Good morning." What's good morning? It's a bracha. He's saying, "Have a good morning." And as a result of that, either you respond or you say thank you. But factually speaking, so when we greet one another and we say we wish each one to have a good morning, and in actuality it's a bracha, and therefore that's the basis why we say it's similar to the Yashikoach in regard to the Birchas Kohanim, because we want to receive the bracha, an additional bracha, but there it's the Kohen giving the bracha, and here it's even an ordinary person who be not a Kohen, but again, it's based on the concept, don't minimize the value of a bracha. So if you can initiate a bracha by saying good morning, and the other person responds, you're doing something very positive. Per Parshas Veschanan, Per Gimel, Posuk Ches. Hashem said to Moshe in the previous posuk, go to this elevated location, lift your eyes, and you'll see in all directions. And so we explained this yesterday because Moshe's eye had to come upon every part of Eretz Yisrael. The Tzavis Yehoshua b'chaskir v'amtzeu. You should command Yeshua. Tzav is usually command. We'll see in a moment. V'chaskeu. Strengthen him. Give him confidence. Give him vigor. Because he's going to go before the people to lead them. And it's not a simple matter. As it says earlier, the Jewish people are a contentious people. You have all kinds of people there, and you have to be able to deal with all these personalities. Therefore, you have to strengthen him. You have to give him confidence, vigor. Why? Because he's the one who's going to take the people across the Yarden, and he will inherit the land to them on their behalf. The land that you see, again, Ashetira, that you see. So Rashi says, what Sabbath Yehoshua? Alatirchos al masos, all the burdens, all the heavy lifting, balamarivos, all the contentiousness. Chaskev amtseu, Rashi, bidvorecho, your words, shloyerach libo, because he has a reason maybe to be a little bit initially discouraged. Lomak shem shenesh Rabbi aleim, just as my teacher, my Rebbe, was punished because of them, because he struck the rock. Kach sofi leonesh aleim. Ultimately, it's inevitable, I'll also be punished. Mavtichu ani ki yavor hu yadchil. No, he's going to take them across, and Yadchil will be able to conquer and divide the land. That's what Hashem is saying. He has a guarantee from Hashem. Hu yavor. Now this is very important. Im yavor lefneim yidcholu. He has to be the one who actually, he can't just send them themselves. Like we have earlier, kings of the nations, they stay behind the lines and they send the people to fight the wars. Klaus, whenever they went to war, Moshe led the battle. Yehoshua led the battle. And David HaMelech, when he went to battle, he was out in the front lines. Hu Yavor. He has to be the one to lead the people. That's a prerequisite to conquering the land. He has to be the one to lead. When he sent the people, the Battle of Ai, where we had 36 casualties during the conquest, Yoshav, and he wasn't there. And as a result of that, the people of Ai had smitten 36 Jews, were killed in that battle. Now, it's interesting. Why were 36 people, why were they killed in that battle? Because that's the story with Ochan. He had taken from the spoils of Jericho, with nobody was permitted to benefit from that, and he did. And as a result of that, this is the reason why we had 36 casualties, because there was this claim against Baal Yisrael, because nobody was supposed to take from the spoils. It's not because Yeshua didn't lead them into battle. But here it says, you find regarding the Battle of Ai, who Yoshav, you remain behind. And it says Yeshua, he prostrated himself. Hashem says to Yeshua, get up. You're remaining here. You sit behind the lines and you send my children to war. What are you prostrating yourself and supplicating me? Didn't I tell Moshe, your Rebbe, over him? There's a prerequisite for what? For the success in all these conquests. Oh, you have to lead them. And if you don't lead him to battle, it's going to fail. Over him. So he's faulting Yehoshua for not leading them into battle. That's the reason. Okay? So we're asking a very simple question. It's clear, explicit. When they realized there were 36 casualties, that means there was something awry over there. There was something not right. And Hashem says that the Jews sinned. And that's when they drew the lots, the gorol, and it turned out Ochan was found to be the culprit. He had taken from the spoils of Yericho. And here we're saying that we're attributing it to what? To Yehoshua. To Yehoshua, that because he didn't lead them to battle, that's why it happened. How do we understand it? Thinking. We find that a person kills inadvertently. So he has to flee to a city of refuge. Right? The Sanhedrin immediately brings him. They evaluate the evidence, whether it was deliberate, inadvertent, and if it was inadvertent, he's sent to the Ari Mikla, to one of the cities of refuge. And how long does he have to stay there? Ad most Kohen Gadol. He's incarcerated there until the Kohen Gadol passes away. So the Gemara asks in Makos, what does the death of the Kohen Gadol have to do with the release of the person from the Ir Miklot? So the Gemara says that the Kohen Gadol, he has a level of responsibility that he has to pray on behalf of Klal Yisrael that mishaps shouldn't happen. The man killed inadvertently, not deliberately. So it was really the person had it because he had a lapse of cognizance. That's why this tragedy happened. He should have prayed that these things shouldn't happen, that people should be aware of their behavior and check the surroundings, or the person, the victim who was killed, he shouldn't have been there at the time. He should have prayed for there should be protection. And because he fell short on his watch, therefore it's when he passes away, only when he passes away, because that's attributed to his failing. Because he didn't pray sufficiently. He fell short of his responsibility. The Gemara says, therefore, the mothers of all these people, their children were incarcerated, they used to pray for the demise of the Kohen Gadol. They wanted him to die because the sooner he dies, their sons are getting out. Because if he doesn't die, they can be there for the rest of their lives. So the Kohen Gadol is not praying, he's held accountable. Even though the person, why is he going through a miklot? Because he wasn't careful enough in his behavior. So it's a combination here. If Yehoshua, it's true, the person took from the spoils of Yericho. There's a claim against Klal Yisrael. But Yehoshua taking them into battle, that would have activated and engendered a level of rachmin that despite that, they would have been protected. They would have been protected. And ultimately, Achan would have been punished. But what do we have like this tragedy? The answer is because Yehoshua wasn't there, therefore, he would have somehow protected him of this tragedy. It's like we say, the person who killed, the reason why he killed, the Gemara says he needs kapara. He's held accountable. But even though with the person who was killed should have been killed, and the one who killed, he's had a certain liability, he should be the one to bring it about. But factually, the Kohen Gadol could have avoided all this. Although all this is in the offing, it's same here. There's a claim against Klal Yisrael, but Yehoshua leading to battle, that would have prevented it. So the not going to battle is what is the cause of the 36 casualties, because he could have prevented those 36 casualties from dying. That's an issue. Somebody's not well, somebody has other problems, person goes to a tzaddik for a bracha. You go to a tzaddik for a bracha. So the Gemara says, why? Chazal said it's a medrash. Because there's a concept, tzaddik goes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu Makayim. That although it's not in the offing to happen, but if the tzaddik decrees, Hashem follows the decree of a tzaddik. That even though Hashem says negative, if the tzaddik says positive, Hashem will submit to the wishes of the tzaddik. Tzaddik goes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu Makayim. Similar idea. The tzaddik has a certain degree of clout that even though based on midas ha-din or other reasons, the person is not worthy of the rachmin, when you need more than rachmin, the tzaddik is able to bring it over the top. That's the tzaddik, because the tzaddik has a certain level of representation. So definitely here, Yehoshua, where Hashem said initially that the conquest is dependent on him leading them into battle. So definitely, that means to succeed in battle. If he doesn't, there's going to be trouble. What was it? How did it manifest itself? He could have protected, avoided this tragedy not caused the tragedy, but the cause of the tragedy was because of Achan had taken up the spoils. A nation bagoy, mul, base poor. We were nation, we settled, we camped in Goy, this elevated location opposite Balpor. What's the Neshiv? What does the settling there or camping there have to do with Balpor? You should say there was a Balpor. What's the Neshiv Bagoy? So over here, the Orachaim HaKodesh addresses this. Tzorch l'das kavonas kosov mashabo lodia b'mayim rizim akesher yeshlo lo imashal fun of lo imashal achro. I'm saying okay. He says Moshe Rabbeinu should have said that Titzmad Balpor. You became attached to Balpor. If he wants to discuss the sin of the Jews, he's rebuking them for the things of the past. What is the nation Bagoy? V'niresh Kavodas Akos V'Gmar Inish Yiskeldo D'Tchil Saparsha. V'Eschanan El Hashem. He's supplicating Hashem, and he is attributed. Why is he not going in? Because of many reasons. Gomer Omer Shelo Hoel Tfilos Lavas Yardei. With all his supplication, it did not change the situation. He's not going in. V'Nation Bagoy a Yeshiva Akeva Arolam. It doesn't mean to say you're not there forever. Nation means temporary there. Omer Bagoy Fish Ertzel. Okay, D'Chsiv. V'Omer Mul Beispor Remez Echo Mitami Kurosel Shom Kedei Sheyeh Mul Avon Por. He says he was giving reasons why he's not going in. Because his burial location has to correspond to the location of the sin. We mentioned over here in the commentary on the Orach Chaim, he cites Tosas in Soto, which cites the Mikrik of the Rebbe Lezer, that and Rashi later cites it, alludes to it, and the Sifsachim cites it, that every year at a certain time, the Balpor, that deity, Balpor, comes out of the ground to bring about a level of prosecution, despite the fact that Pinchas had killed Zimri and Cosby. Nevertheless, there's a claim against Klal Yisrael. Every year, at a certain moment, it comes out of the ground and it rears its head to bring it about a level of prosecution which would destroy us. And as it comes out of the ground, it sees the burial location of Moshe, and the moment it sees it, it goes right back into the ground, and that silences, that quells the prosecution. So he's telling him the reason why, one of the reasons I'm not going in is because you sinned with Balpor, and I have to be there to quell that and to silence the prosecution. That's one of the reasons why I'm not going in, because my burial location had to correspond to the location of the Balpor for that reason. Okay.
So why was Moshe complaining if
Yes.
So if he understood that he had to be buried by Balpor to help the Jewish people, so why would he complain that he wants to go in there? So if he knows that he has to be buried there, and he just said that he has to be buried there.
Okay. Now, you could say two things. Either you could say, Hashem says, I don't want you to pray anymore. Silent. Be silent. You're not going in. Including in that, what Hashem said, that's when he informed him why he's not going in. Because that was the old question we asked. The Rav Kalatsky explains the reason why he didn't go in, not with the spirit of the Rebbe Lezer. Later he explains, because anything Moshe was involved in is eternal. So if he would have gone and built the Beis HaMikdash, that Beis HaMikdash couldn't have been destroyed. And if it would have been destroyed, the only reason why we were not destroyed, because Hashem had taken collateral, his wrath was expressed on the Beis HaMikdash. So if Moshe Rabbeinu knew that, why does he want to go in? Ultimately, it's not going to be a Klal Yisrael. They're going to be destroyed. Yet he prayed. So the Chaim HaKadosh explains that Moshe Rabbeinu had believed that if he would lead them, he would bring them to a level that they're not going to sin, that they deserve to be destroyed. The base of the Mikdash was destroyed because the first one for this reason, the second for this other reason. So because we had failings, that's why we deserve to be destroyed. Hashem took the base of Mikdash. The Moshe Rabbeinu would have built it, they would have been destroyed. But Moshe Rabbeinu believed that based on his level of leadership, they wouldn't have fallen to a level that they would have to be destroyed. Hashem says, you're not going in. And ultimately, what Hashem is saying, your leadership wouldn't make a difference. Or for many other reasons, you can't go in. And as a result of that, they will be culpable and they would have to be destroyed. So the Beis HaMikdash is there to be taken as collateral. That's the answer. So over here, Moshe Rabbeinu, you could say, either understood that the Balpor, even if it rears its head, he doesn't have to be there. If he's alive, if he goes in, he'll bring him to a level that whatever that prosecution is, he'll be able to fend off the prosecution. Hashem says no. Either because they're not worthy, they won't be at that level. You're not going to bring them to that level. Therefore, when that prosecution comes about, it's going to find its person. There's going to be tremendous fallout because of that. Therefore, you have to be buried there. So it's only after he was told to be silent did he understand that whatever, even if it goes in, it's going to be tragic. That was the takeaway why Hashem told him to stop praying.
So with all those reasons, Rabbi, why did Moshe have to think that it was because of his sin of hitting the rock that he couldn't go in? Why couldn't Hashem just tell him, listen, Moshe, listen, you need to be here for Baal Peor, you need to be here because we need the base of Mikdash won't be destroyed. That's it, son. We're not going in. Is it?
Good reason. Good question. Now, the halacha is that if a person has no liability, Hashem's not going to take his life because somebody else has the benefit. He's not going to do that. We find that we speak about the Muslims of Yisur and Shalavo. What's Yisur and Shalavo? A person who's an exceptional tzaddik, even though he doesn't deserve to be punished, Hashem makes his life complicated because if his life's not complicated, he does things with ease. But if Hashem gives him challenges, although he doesn't deserve that challenge, because he scored and he succeeded in every previous challenge, but yet Hashem turns the screws, puts him in a vice. An example, Rabbi Yehuda Nossi, who's called Rabbeinu HaKadosh, there was a story that Gemara tells us we had above Mitzvah that a calf was about to be slaughtered, and it ran to seek refuge by Rabbi Yehuda Nossi from the Shochet, and it put its head into the cloak of Rabbi Yehuda Nossi. And Rabbi Yehuda Nossi says to the calf, go to your slaughter, because you were created for that. You were meant to be slaughtered. Because there was a certain degree of insensitivity when he said that, he developed a stone in his urinary tract, and for 13 years, he suffered that when he would do his bodily functions, his screams from pain would be louder than the sound of the flocks and the herds. That's how he suffered for 13 years. 13 years later, his maidservant was sweeping out a litter of cats or whatever it is, or rodents, and just sweeping it into the street, which showed a certain degree of insensitivity, and he brought them back in. So the second action was a correction of the first action. First action was a lack of sensitivity. The second was an expression of sensitivity. So that corrected the first. So they asked, what did he say so terrible? Because it displayed a certain lack of sensitivity. Is that what he deserves? So the way it's explained, even if and the Gemara said that's Yisur and Shalava. That's Yisur and Shalava. Hashem only gave him that pain. So that challenge, because Hashem wants to increase his reward. Despite that, because really he has no liability. If things want to be complicated, he does things easily. But now that he does things despite the difficulty, it increases his level of reward based on the principle of Fum Tzara. The more difficult the challenge is, the greater is the value of the action. So they say that even though there's no liability, but Hashem is not going to put a person in a position, a compromised position, unless you have something to hang your head on. There has to be some degree of failing, even though it's not a sin what he did. But Hashem has to have a reason. If there's no reason, he can't do it. He won't do it because it's contrary to justice. Justice is perfectly innocent. Why are you doing this thing? You have to have some degree, at least a misdemeanor. It's like a misdemeanor. The misdemeanor is you have to be the example for everybody. So Moshe Rabbeinu himself to say, well, you can't build a Mikdash because it's not the reason why I can't go in. I'm perfect, or because whatever it is, because I have to quell the prosecution for Baal Peor. But what did I do wrong? Hashem says, you struck the rock. I gave you a challenge, and you failed. That's the reason why you're not going in. But everybody else could pray. Rachmim, what he told me to remain silent. The answer is because you not going in, I'm not allowing Midas Arachmin to interplay here because you need it. But it's only because there's a liability. There is a liability. And because of that liability, that's the reason why you can't go in. Or do you tell me the first few psukim? Okay. Ata Yisrael, Shema Lachukim El Mishpatim. Now Yisrael, you should be attentive to the Chuk Mishpatim. Asher Nochim Lamanesam Lasos. V'antiu Matichu. So you should live with Vosem Rishtem Es Oretz. You will go and you conquer the land. Asher Hashem Elokeim V'Sechem Nosim Lachem. Which Hashem, the God of your forefathers, is giving to you. Now over here, the Or Chaim says something interesting. What is he saying to them? So he says over here, Ata Shema Yisrael, Ulai Sheniskavet Kedeg Shnei Dvarim She'iru Lo. He personally had two incidents in his life, which he paid dearly for, Moshe Rabbeinu. Echad Binyan HaKosa Selah. First, he struck the rock. He was supposed to speak to the rock rather than striking the rock. Hashem Omelod L'Daber V'Hiko V'Choshev Lasus HaMitzvah B'Zrizus Godol. Yeah. He wanted to bring the water about so quickly that's Zrizus. You know, there's an expression, haste makes waste. So sometimes the times you should be more deliberate. You shouldn't react or respond quickly. You do things, you deliberate before you do the action. So because he spoke, it wasn't happening. So what did he do? He wanted to bring back the results. He struck the rock. Beis bin Zimri, Sheshogak Lusamets, Lasos din Kanu Pogebo. When the story of Zimri was going on, although if he would have been a zealot, he was supposed to kill Zimri, but he did not. Why did he not? V'lo zocha b'kiddush Hashem shehizman Hashem lefonov. The Saki Ma'aser Rishon. Hear this. The story of Zimri, if he would have acted, that would have corrected the story of the hitting the rock. Hashem gave him the opportunity to avenge his honor, to do a Kiddush Hashem. What was the claim by the seller? You had the opportunity, Lagdi Sheni, to sanctify my name. He did not. Therefore, you're not going in. So Hashem says, I'll give you another opportunity. And if you sanctify my name now, that will correct the first lack of sanctification. And he failed on the second one. Because what happened? Zimri, Pinchas did it rather than him. Hashem lo Kiddush Hashem. Although the Torah Midrash tells us Pinchas came before him, he says, didn't you teach us a person who public knowledge has relations with a non-Jewish woman? If you're a zealot, you're supposed to kill him. Hey, Shigo Kreiner Digarto, Levi Pravak, he says, because since you're the one who remembered, you made the proclamation, you should be the one to act on it. V'zocha Pinchas Bedover. The Bris HaSholem, which Pinchas received, that was meant to be for Moshe. He lives eternally. Moshe, if he would have received that bracha, he would have gone in. So the question is, why not? If Moshe Rabbeinu understood that that's what he's supposed to do, why didn't he do it? So Chazal tells the Salman he forgot. He forgot, and Pinchas reminded him. What's the reason? Why did he fail with the rock? Because he wanted to bring it back quickly. Maybe Kanon Pogo, he started to question himself. Maybe if he visually sees it, then he has to react. But just being aware of it, that's not enough. See, he was extra cautious. The reason why he didn't act immediately, because he was extra cautious, we shouldn't be cautious. He should have acted immediately. And therefore he sat back, he didn't do it. Because he did it with alacrity, the rock, so there was a tragedy that came out. He did the wrong thing. So because of that, he made this mistake. Because he failed on the first, he was extra cautious, and that cautiousness prevented him from acting immediately. But the second action would have corrected the first. Okay? So that's what he's telling Klal Yisrael. He's forewarning them the two areas which he inadvertently failed. V'nima me'alos el har Hashem tzrodos ir oz lonu. V'neshe b'gai mupor v'omelem. Atu yisrael shma el hachukim. Shema mitzvah shem chukim. The mitzvahs which are statutes. Zedimin masa sela shomelo Hashem daber lesela shrod nichver. Hashem speak to the rock. It's a chok. Hashem says that's the way it's going to happen. Speak to the rock. You must speak. That's it. And because he didn't do it right, he said, speak. Well, he wanted to bring it back more quickly. Okay, he made a mistake. ואומר אל המשפוטים, כנגד המשפוטים, שהעריך השם בתורתו, שהם דינים המשפט בו והרמז שקרם בוגם בו, ששוגג. It's a mishpat. If it's this level of chil Hashem, you have to react immediately. And because he failed something which should have been understood, that he should have reacted, because he was burnt the first time, he hesitated the second time. The first time was a chok. Chukim. Zero kenegdo. And that's what he's saying. You should not make the mistake I made. Sheineni over zeyardin go over those sifu. What is it? Don't be extra cautious. We're not talking about Baltos and Baltigra over here. That's not what we're talking about. He's talking about to learn from his personal mistake. Al derech mashamru beraiso. By Reb Lezer Moshe Rofish Nichnas. Okay, he's forewarning them. Don't make the mistake I made. Hashem says, speak, don't hit the rocks. He did something Hashem told him not to do. If they start doing things more than Hashem said, if Hashem said, this is the way you should do it, don't do it differently. We had this earlier, that by the spies, Hashem says they're going to want for 40 years. So it says that some of the Jews, they said, we're going to go, we're going to conquer. So Hashem says to Moshe, tell them that because I'm not with them, and the Oren's not with them, they're going to be killed by the people they're going into. The Canaanim, they're going to kill them. And they didn't listen, and they went. Here they said, we're going to conquer them. Once Hashem clips your wings, you're not going anywhere. Without wings, you're not flying. He's saying the same thing. If we could do it in 3 days, why wait 7 days? Because you have to do it the way Hashem says you should do it. Don't be too anxious to do it, and you overstep your bounds. That was Moshe Rabbeinu's mistake. He should have spoken to the rock and waited for the rock to give its water. And he did not. He struck the rock. To have it done more quickly. And the other is the mistake with the Balpor. He should have acted, but yet he was hesitant. Because he was overly cautious because of the first thing. No, in that situation, he should have acted immediately. And if he would have acted immediately, he would have corrected the first inaction or overaction, and that Kiddush Hashem would have corrected the first lack of Kiddush Hashem.